We're standing right what would have been railroad property, probably right on the right-of-way. We're looking south to over where we were standing over next to those trees before, way back. And it's just the train. Tell us a little bit, Larry, here. That was the
original D&H freight shed. Then it was owned by GLF for a store.
Okay.
And storage and so on.
Calvin was just saying that's a collector's item, GLF. Now, of course, it's Agway. Right. And that the track ran right straight through here. And we're standing right about on the track. And off to our to Calvin's left is Depot Street going over to Route 11. The slipper factory was right on the corner here in front of this house we can see. And then there, right about where that next white house is, there was a stave and, did I tell you? It's another factory.
Stave and Shingle.
Stave and Shingles factory, right about where that's where Mr. Hogle lives, I believe.
See where that pier is right there, that stone or
yes.
cement pier? Well, that's where the custom house was you were talking about.
Okay, just to the left of the truck. In between the red truck and then you can see that's where the customs house was.
Right.
This was the building, probably the Rutland, right? Or
right.
The Rutland building here on the left. The freight or the storage at this end. Over the top of the window here, there's a very ornate section over the window at the end of the building with decorations. See, that was done, if you look at the braces under the roof, it's just too bad to have that building go away like that. And just go to waste. It's a nice old building. And we'll look around the other side of that. And then Depot Street proceeded straight ahead right to where we are here. And it ended right here at the end of the tracks. Look at the see the loops around over the top of the window. The big wide one going from side to side, and the windows itself, and then the frame over the window. Very, very nice. It must have been beautiful in its day. Larry, you said the building that is behind Calvin here was moved here, right? That wasn't an original location?
That was the old railroad section house. That's where the trackmen used to store their motor car and so on.
And that was on the other side of the east-west track?
It was on the opposite side, and it was down over the crossing, over the other street.
Oh, on the other side.
Right.
Okay. All right, we're going to proceed over here to where the east-west track was, and then you can see the diamond was been right here, correct?
Right at the end of the station.
Right at the end of the station was the diamond. The diamond, of course, being where a train from the north-south crosses the train track from the east-west. And you have that very different kind of tracks that just have to have a space to go through. And the train bed, the track bed was right up where that car is here in that general area, right through that building where the garages look like there, the barn, right straight up, right into Champlain and Rouse's Point.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it went in front of this building. This was the front of the station. Look at that door up at the top. That's got, or maybe I've been a window. See, it's got the circular top. This small addition on the corner, Larry said, was not there before. That was open, and you can see the, what do you call that, a bay window?
Right.
That bay window in front of the building, just like Larry has made in his, where you have the telegrapher and he can look out both ways. And there were steps going into the building there.
There used to be, many years ago, a wooden platform that ran all around the building, too. From the waiting room down the far end, right across the front of the bay window. Then it came up to accommodate the big sliding door. And around this side, and the same height as the sliding door on this end. And then it tapered down toward the D&H side. So you could run a hand truck up there, and you could go right around the building with it. Mm-hmm.
It's hard to believe, Larry, you're talking less than 40 years ago. The 50s, right? They were still here in the 50s.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Rutland ran till, what, 61?
62? I mean, no, you're talking 30 years ago, and look what's happened to the building. It's just very unfortunate. Off to the west, we're in the railroad bed here where the track was. The track went straight through and across the Hemingford Road and proceeded through the woods into Mooers, well, excuse me, not to Mooers Forks. It went down to, yes, they went to Mooers Forks and then down to Altona. And this wide area was the yard. And there were 2 or 3 tracks side by side here where you had some parking. And this turnaround we told you about, well, what do you call it, a turnaround? Or a Y, came from between these 2 buildings way down and swept out toward that tree over here in that general area. And then they would go toward Mooers Forks, then back up this way, and then go over, and then you could head back in the opposite direction. And there again, as we say, anything else? Larry, tell us also about.
You had the track closest to the station was the main line and went straight through. Then you had the passing track over this side.
To the north, yes.
Right. And way down beyond those houses was the switch that let you in on the passing track, okay?
Okay.
And beyond
that's straight ahead, yes.
Right, and beyond the Hemingford Road behind us was the switch that let you out of it. So it would hold about 45 cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was living here, my father used to bring calves up here and put them on the train, you know, and that was right about where that car is parked over there. There was a yard there where you could bring your cattle, and they weighed them, and they took them and got them onto the train, and I guess they went to the market in New England. How many people worked here? Any idea, Larry? Local people working in at the station?
You had 5 section men, did track maintenance and so on.
And they were stationed right here, right?
Right. This was their home base. And then you had your agent telegrapher. So you had, say, 6 people right in town at the railroad employee.
Now that looks like it's a slate roof, doesn't it? It's a slate roof on that building. You can see that it's pretty damaged up there, a part that sticks out to the north, but it's a slate roof. And it's just, I wonder who owned this after. Do you know who bought this at the time that the Rutland left?
It went through a couple of people who leased it, and then a couple of different owners. So I'm not sure really what the sequence was there, but was owned by, and used by several different people.
It's too bad that it wasn't maintained because it's got a lot of history to it. It's been here probably over 100 years, right?
Oh yeah, I'd say since the 1850s.
1850s.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a short break. We're at the Mooers Junction with Larry Marnes and Calvin on the camera. I'm Bob Venn. I'll be right back to you. If you can. We're standing on the north side of this building with a big open door. We're not trying to go into the building, but as we look in, we can see a scale. And tell us about that scale, Larry, on the far side.
That was an old railroad platform scale, and they used to use it to weigh freight that was being shipped and so on. The platform is built right into the floor, and it's an old balance beam scale.
And then you mentioned the door in the end where the windows are. You saw that from outside. What about the freight, you said?
Yeah, well, when the D&H used to pull up there, if they had a few packages to transfer to the Rutland, they'd transfer it right through that door, and you could bring it out this door and load it on the Rutland. So
so you had a regular, right around right angle here. You had both trains, and that was a very unusual type of thing, right?
Right.
At the junction. Okay, we're going to look at just a little bit here on the construction. Look at this 3x10 here that are holding these up. They've been here, as we say, probably over 100 years, probably 130 years, and they're probably just as good as the day they put them in. And that was rough lumber. You didn't. That wasn't plain lumber, and it was well kept. And now, of course, there's holes in the roof, and this door is no longer here. And anyway, but we're memorabilia, and when some of the memorabilia in Mooers, New York, that someone should never forget is right here, Larry.
There. You hold. There.
Doubling Over by Larry E. Marnes, a book that Larry wrote. What do you mean by doubling over? Why is that the title?
It's a railroad term, and it refers to placing a draft of cars from one track onto a draft of cars on another track. That's all it is. And I call it doubling over because a lot of the stories in here are funny stories.
All right.
So I figured I'd combine the railroad.
Doubling over laughing.
I hope so.
All right. Now, Larry, is this mostly about the Rutland or about D&H Rutland, about this area?
It's about railroads in the area. Just incidents that happened, day-to-day experiences and stuff.
And some pictures.
Right.
And is this still available?
Not now. That was published in 1987. So
Right.
it's out of print now. But so we don't really have to plug the book.
Well, okay, but we still want to plug you for having written it and then make this available to these railroad people. And you said you printed over 6,000 copies?
Right.
And they're all gone.
Right.
And it isn't a big book, but it was an important book, and it makes us not only a railroad man here, but an author. And there's the Naperville Junction, number 36, right in front of his building. We know what the numbers and the stencils mean in the building, too. Don't forget that. And anything else about the book? Now, there's Larry standing where I was standing before. Carlton Press Incorporated in New York published the book for him, printed and published, right? And there he is standing at his caboose. And very proud of you must be, Larry, of having written a little book like this. You're part of the history. It'll be forever.
It was a fun project.
Of course it was.
Sure.
And you work now for A.N. Derringer.
Right.
What do you do at Derringer's?
I'm a release clerk. I work 4 to 12 shift, and we handle the clearance of highway freight as well as rail freight through Rouse's Point.
Do you push for that kind of work over there? Do you run over to the rail freight as much as possible?
We don't have to anymore. They come to us now, so we've got a new setup there. But they've had a good increase in rail traffic since the CP took over, and that's good.
Yeah. Your mom still lives in...
right next door.
Next door in Mooers. Your dad, you lost a few years ago. He worked for MP Myers.
Right.
Good troubleshooter for their TVs, and that's how I met him, having some TV problems. And he and Jerry Bowen, who worked at Customs in Champlain and lived, were very close friends. They worked together at MP Myers. Yeah. That's when I first met Larry, way back 30-plus years ago, I guess it was. Over 30 years.
Must be.
Must be. Yeah, because you were just about 6 years old at the time.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Larry, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and showing us your love, the railroading, your caboose.
It's nice of you to come over. I appreciate your interest, too.
We've been wanting to do it for some time. I hope you didn't think we were forgetting you, because we have. Peg Barcombe has mentioned, when are you going to get over the Larrys? When are you going to get over the Larrys? I said, well, eventually. We didn't want too much railroad together. We've had a lot of railroad, but this is a different kind of railroad. We saw, again, railroad up here is going out. This went through Rouse's Point. This is one of the ones they used for the diamond over there.
Right. And
it crossed that track that just burned out on the pier. We just opened again, right, Calvin? The pier.
Opening tomorrow, we're taping this.
Okay, tomorrow will be on the 17th. It'll be opening. You're going to be there and get a few pictures, and so you'll be seeing that. That's another
part.
Little part of Rutland Railroad back again. Larry, what is being done with the property right now? Do you know right here?
This property, I don't know. I'm not sure who the owner is or anything, and everything is just kind of static right now. Nothing happening with it.
Yeah, because look at over the top of this door. Look at the work on that. You don't see that today. They can't afford to put that in buildings today. Again, look at the braces under there. That's all. I just hate to see this lost. And then you take even here the cleats, or whatever you call these, that go over the boards. Usually they're flat. Look at the rounded edge. They're made. They were made to last. They were made to look good, and they did for many years.
Look at the foundation.
Look at the foundation still there. And now this foundation is very unique. Look at this. 100 and some odd years. 130, 40 years it's been here. And it's been a history of, and for the last 30 it's been kind of dormant in Mooers. We hope this revives a little bit of interest, and maybe somebody in Mooers can find out who owns the building, and maybe you can make a little project and kind of fix it up a little bit so that it would keep the history of railroading in Mooers a little bit more.
It would be nice.
Anything else, Larry?
Nothing really. I think we pretty well covered the waterfront there, Bob.
Very good. Thank you very, very much. And maybe if you can't, the library have these?
The libraries in, I think, Mooers and Champlain, probably Rouse's Point have it.
Okay. You could always, maybe you might want to look that up and read it and get it back to the library. But Larry E. Marnes, his father, a native of Rouse's Point.
Right.
And his uncle's in Rouse's Point, and he and his family grew up right here in Mooers. And Larry, thanks again. We've been at Mooers, New York. We've shown you where the trains cross the Route 22. And by the way, Larry lives on Route 11, not 22. They come to a junction there, and they kind of go in opposite directions.
You took the wrong track.
I took the wrong track, but it's the one where the building is with the big wheels underneath it. Please watch Hometown Cable every day. If you don't want to watch the whole programs, at least tune in and see what's on. There's a bulletin board when it first starts at 1:15, 4:30. 8 p.m., midnight, and 8 the following morning. 5 showings of the same program, 3 hours put out by Calvin and his brother Sam, who take a lot of pictures. Judy also takes some pictures for them, and a few other people volunteer their time like I do. And if you enjoy it, why don't you tell somebody at Hometown Cable, and while you're telling them, send them a check for $12 or more to help to keep this kind of thing on the air. And thanks very much. Bob Venn saying so long for now, and we'll see you next Sunday.